Good evening and welcome to Artist Talk on Art, Monday, November 13th, 2023. Thank you for joining us. I'm Miriam Deutsch, ATOA Programming Director. Founded in 1974, ATOA is the art world's longest running and preeminent forum. We are now in our 49th year. Our archive resides at Archives of American Art of the Smithsonian. Our archive collection has surpassed 8,500 artists, and we have 1,000 panels and dialogues recordings. Comments made by our presenters do not necessarily reflect those of ATOA. And just a little commercial, please join us next Monday, November 20th, at 7 p.m. when we will feature photography critic A.D. Coleman and Douglas Shear in dialogue discussing Coleman's career. Tonight we have ATOA's president and founder Doug Shear interviewing environmental artist Tasha Depp. Doug was educated at the Rhodes School as well as the Rhodes Island School of Design. A painter by trade, Doug was also a pioneering video artist. He operated the Egg Store video facility in Tribeca in the 1970s, where he served fellow video artists including Nam June Paik, Twyla Tharp, Bill Viola, Merce Cunningham, Carolee Shaman, Yoko Ono, and others. Doug has shown his abstract paintings widely. He has served as a board member of the Woodstock Birdcliff Guild and currently serves on its exhibition committee. He is also a member of the education committee of the Samuel Dorsey Museum of Art at SUNY New Paltz. He created and ran the Birdcliff Forum during the pandemic period and was the producer of its Zoom programs, including its 10-part Woodstock Masters series. And he also curated an exhibit related to that called Sense of Place in August and September 2022. Some of Doug's recent paintings can be viewed on his website, and background on his life and the history of Artist Talk on Art can be viewed on the Woodstock Library YouTube channel in a talk on October 29th, 2022. In 1974, Doug was co-founder of Artist Talk on Art, and where he currently serves as its president. So now I'm going to turn the program over to Doug.
Thank you very much. I'm happy I could assist the Woodstock Birdcliff Guild by interviewing Tasha Depp tonight within the context of the Artist Talk on Art Fall Talks. ATOA has, among its 8,500 presenters, provided a forum for nearly 500 Hudson Valley and Catskill-based artists, critics, and curators since our founding in 1974. And I want to mention that Tasha's show continues on for another week at the Kleiner James Gallery. Tasha Depp received her BFA from Cooper Union and an MFA from Rutgers University. She embarked on a lifetime of reconciling her commitment to political and conceptual concerns to her innate painter's sensibility. She currently lives, works, and exhibits in the Hudson Valley. Depp shares a digital sketchbook, Suburb Scrawl, on her social media profiles. She teaches drawing to incarcerated students as well as creates live paintings at weddings and special events. Her paintings and mixed media work express the anxiety of a culture awaiting rapture in a collapsing landscape, all the while eating slow food in the fast lane. And more of her work can be seen on her Instagram page, which is instagram.com/Tasha Depp/. And also currently on the Woodstock Guild page as well, website. Tasha Depp's three-dimensional paintings are conversations between real life and representation, predictability and chance, priorities and play. borrowed from Trompe-l'oeil techniques, decorative folk art, toll painting, and the European fine arts tradition. Depp paints her subjects precisely and with such attention to their accurate paintings, deceive the eye. She depicts the details of prosaic objects on random substrates. An Apple charger balances on a shattered car bumper. Wild brambles crackle on a fiberglass shard. And an acrylic carpet dissolves into a struggle with nature itself. With deft old master brushwork, Depp transforms an assortment of plastic and metal
Yes,
detritus.
just sitting on, I don't have my,
Please mute yourself, whoever that is. Depp transforms an assortment of plastic and metal detritus, giving them new life as archival surfaces. These discarded relics of consumerism lend a texture and humility that makes the work accessible and at times even humorous. Her ironic pairing of random plastics with exquisitely painted imagery of people, places, and things conceptually probes mythic dichotomies of contemporary American life, work and play, have and have not, nature and trash, as well as contradictions between the lowbrow and highbrow art. Celebrating the endless diversity of experience, Tasha Depp invites us into an equanimous, never get that one, realm where the random and the antithetical can still make poetry together. I'll just say before turning this over to Tasha, environmental art emerged in the 1970s as an offshoot of the wider environmental movement. But it could really be argued that it had its ancient roots in cave painting.
yeah.
So I'm going to pass this on to Tasha, who's going to be showing you work and commenting. And then I will come back in after that with some questions. Tasha.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Miriam. Thank you. I'm really pleased to be having this beautiful show at the Klein Art. It's just been a really great experience. I've put together this slideshow of both work exhibited in the show and then other pieces and work that kind of explain some of the main themes and ideas that have continued to influence me and steer the direction of my work. So I'm going to list a few of those ideas and at the beginning here, and then we'll sort of pick up with seeing a lot of images. So one of the main ideas that I find myself just sort of stuck on forever is mimesis, like the idea of imitation of the real world in art. I think I was just born a realist, and I guess you could say this is otherwise known as my fascination with and cultivated ability to paint realistically. Like it's just kind of unavoidable. I've tried to do other things and I just can't. I can't really paint abstractly. And another theme in my work is the continuous desire to make accessible work, even though often I'm kind of working with sophisticated or even challenging visual ideas, but I'm always struggling to give some kind of a hook so that people want to look at the work and they don't feel overwhelmed by looking at paintings they don't understand or something like that. A third constant is to make work that speaks to the splendor of simply being alive, which is something I think more and more about, I guess, because I'm getting older. And this implies an awareness of our mortality, actually. Specifically, my work always honors the crazy trajectory of an intelligence, our intelligence, that is so capable of cutting its own throat, filling the ocean with waste, relegating entire populations to starvation, and using up valuable natural resources until they are depleted. It is a constant challenge to make work about these things, or this conundrum of how could we be so intelligent, or this is the nature of intelligence, I guess, to just keep discovering and inventing. And I'm always trying to, I try to avoid making work that makes you want to cry. So, it's kind of a challenge. So we're starting out slowly with the images, because I have much less documentation of earlier work. But I feel that I was working out a lot of important questions and ideas that are the same that I continue to work on, but during that early time. And so there is quite a bit to say. Let's see. So this first image relates to, this was made when I was 11 or 12, believe it or not. This first image relates to growing up on Long Island and being born a realist from the get-go. I collaborated with my best friend Barbara when we were 11 and 12 to make this 24-foot mural on the back of a 2-foot wide wallpaper roll. If you've spent any time on the South Shore of Long Island, you'll probably agree that this is a pretty good representation of the place. We argued about the ratio of homes to shops and green space to pavement. I mean, we really did argue. The mural was published in Kids Magazine. That was a magazine back then. And Barbara and I were really proud of the entire thing. She went on to study illustration at Rhode Island School of Design. I, unfortunately, next moved to Virginia at the age of 13. I lost my close connection to Barbara and didn't find my people much at all in Virginia. I did find them when I enrolled in art school at Cooper Union in New York City in 1978. I was introduced then to political art, conceptual art, film, which I had no clue about until then, video art, I had no clue about, all of this, and minimalism. I soaked it all up like a sponge. It became clear to me that representational painting was dead, and I was not at all sure what sort of art to make instead. While I tried to figure it out, I did keep painting. I was thrilled to study with Stephen Posen at Cooper Union, who was, I'm going to say, a super realist painter, though I'm not sure that's the best way to describe his work. But to this day, I see moments in my work related to having learned so much from him. I also took the instruction of Hans Hake, who was another revered teacher at Cooper Union, very seriously. As many of you probably know, he is a major, I'd say, political artist. So this was challenging for a painting student to take him very, very seriously, but I wasn't alone. I met Liz Byrne, who was also a painter, and we explored humor, cartooning, storytelling, and other means of making painting viable in this conceptually focused environment. Liz and I collaborated also. We worked on a big project out in Coney Island in a political art show in around 1980, I guess, or something like that, where we painted free portraits that were not only very popular and very beautiful, but they suggested an art practice removed from the New York gallery economic structure. We had lines of people just standing waiting for their portrait, and we handed them to them free, 20-minute portraits each. I think we each painted maybe something like, 14 or 15 portraits that day in tempera paint on paper. The next thing Liz and I did was, and this is incredible, I so wish I had documentation of this, we actually painted it was a painted expose entitled The Life of Donald Trump. Yeah, and this was in a Power Money themed show at Franklin Furnace in 1987.
Wow.
As I say, I don't have images of that, but what I do have is this painting, which it was sort of in the style of what we did. it's obviously not about Donald Trump. It's about a young woman using a Xerox machine, and then where you would have angels in traditional sort of Italian painting, I have just the identical Xerox copies, because that's what she was doing, making copies. And I apologize for the frame. It's been in my attic for a while. It's pretty funny. My attic's a scary place. Yeah, so Liz and I had this sort of Italian icon painting approach. So we had a painting called The Birth of Donald Trump, sort of along the lines of the birth of Jesus Christ. Something like maybe a painting of his first investment, real estate investment, things like that. So once I left school, well, I had already left school by then. I continued to paint on different topics, and here you will see Stay Free, which was a painting I made on a surface that another student had made, and he painted the frame there gold spray paint. And I've painted this young woman flying along on a maxi pad. I was pretty interested in advertising and even the just language and the ideas that are used to move products along. You know, this was the 70s. And the next thing I did is painted this same image really, really large. And that was about 4 by 6. And unfortunately, I couldn't find that painting, the version of this that was much larger, when I left the studio on Allen Street down in the Lower East Side. So all I can imagine is somebody stole it, and it is to this day hanging hopefully over somebody's sofa. I hope so, but who knows? So this is sanitary blue. I was getting a lot of imagery from advertising, but also from printed materials. So you can see some tissue box flowers in here and different blue flowers used to sell various things. I guess there's probably some flannel flowers in there, cotton flannel flowers. I was working from magazine
Tasha,
hair.
excuse me, people are
Yes.
saying that they can't see your images.
We
Oh.
can. They're just not on the right slide.
They're
Oh,
saying share her screen so that we may see those images. And
It's being shared. They're just people have to move to the right. I can see them right now. They need to change to the right screen.
okay. Some people are saying they can see them, and then
Yeah, I
okay.
can see them.
What do you mean, Marston, change the screen?
Like if you toggle around Zoom, you can see all the participants on one page, and then you can see all these different like right now I can click on you. You're in the top right corner. There's a little image. You click on that.
right.
And now I see you clearly, or whoever's speaking, and then you click on it again and it brings you back to the screen sharing.
The gallery view. Okay. So
So is this mostly maybe people just not knowing how to use the Zoom, or are we?
Yes,
doing-
no,
That's
you're,
what it is. Yes.
you're sharing all good. Don't worry.
Yes,
thank
you're
you.
doing wonderful.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
I can see
you,
it, no
everybody.
problem. I
Yeah.
can see it, no problem.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for the little tech help there. So this painting is a large hair painting. I was looking at women's magazines, or just magazines in general, filled with women's images of women. Wait, I'm sorry, I have to turn my phone off. Okay, so I got that. So this is about a 4 by 6 foot painting, something like that. They were large. This was brunette. I made blonde and black hair and redhead, all the same size, these really big hair paintings. And I made some other hair paintings also, one from a wig that I just kept throwing around in different ways and then painting it from different angles. And in a way, I think of them as my best effort at abstract painting at the time, because they are, in a sense, abstractly composed, but made up of representational imagery. So I was also experimenting with painting. Well, this was a whole series, long series of paintings made from full-page magazine advertisements. I'm realizing how dated all this work is because nobody even looks at magazines anymore. We're all on the internet. But these were full-page magazine images to sell various products, used to sell various products. Some of them were double-page spreads, and others were even triple-page spreads of a lot of them I remember from National Geographic. So that red desert image is Volkswagen. That was a Volkswagen ad, and it has no car in it. It never had a car in it. It probably had a logo down in the center at the bottom, but I just removed any kind of identifying language or logos and showed the image. And then the next one next to it, in the frame next to it, is Infinity, spelled with an I. That's another car company. And then I was planning to show them, if I ever showed them, which I never did, in a grid probably, but I was experimenting with putting them in those traditional frames also. So the one on the left is called Alpine, which puzzles me to this day because I don't know what company that was, but I'm sure it was a company because that was all I chose to paint from. The middle one is American Express. And then the one on the right, pardon me if I say this wrong, but it's Chivas Regal, some kind of liquor that I'm not overly familiar with, but I know it's a famous liquor brand. So I made a lot of those. Some were animals. There was like a bald eagle. There was a Raggedy Ann face, all different images that were used to sell different products and services. This is also more using printed materials to populate large paintings. This was about 6 feet by 8 feet, something like that. And I painted a few large paintings using images off like tissue boxes or whatever. This one is called The Swimmers. And that's a Playboy lady coming in from the top. She's diving into the painting. And then you've got some snorkelers on vacation looking at the bottom of the sea. And then you've got these retired ladies in an exercise class, probably in a pool, looking out at the audience. And so this painting was very much about the different relationships of the viewer to these different kinds of swimmers, the relationships of the swimmers to the painting itself, and so on. Let's see, what's next? Okay, so then I finally found another collaborator. This was something I made with my boyfriend at the time, Garrett Kalleberg, who I went to Cooper Union with. He and I were in a study group reading we were reading Adorno, Aesthetic Theory is the name of the book. And we read the book for about 2 years. I think we met once a month with a group of 4 or 5 other crazy people. And 2 of the people were going to have a baby by the time we were done reading the book. And we decided to make this alphabet book for their baby. And Garrett was an excellent photographer with a beautiful 2.25 camera. So we shot all of this sort of in and around our apartment in the East Village. And that first one is A is for Adorno. And you can see someone's pulling the doorknob off of the door of the East Village apartment door. And then Y is for this is how chaotic your order actually is. We were very casual with, what the letters stood for and so on. But someone's pulling a sandwich out of a file folder in a filing cabinet. So we had a lot of fun making this book. And I think there are only 2 copies of it. I think we only made 4 to begin with. There might be 3 copies of it in existence, but I would love to reprint it at some point. This is, what is this? This is a game show painting. And I was painting several paintings off of television imagery. I would set the camera up and take photographs right off the television. I love the colors, especially the game shows. You know, you can see there's pink light in back of her wrist, and the lighting, and even the crazy scenario of Vanna White handing these wads of cash to this innocent couple, Claire and her husband there. So I think this maybe was called Let's Make a Deal, but I'm not even sure anymore. Then we have, oh yes, so this is kind of a jump, but what happened here is, as a painter, I was thinking about archival and how archival and non-biodegradable are kind of this, they are the same thing, but from different perspectives. Archival, you know, is what artists try to do to make paintings last forever, make it so they don't chip and fray and everything. And then non-biodegradable is what happens when you make horrible trash that just never disappears. So it's funny that those words kind of mean the same thing, but they're from very different perspectives. Anyway, I was at the time thinking about this because I was painting on a lot of printed materials. I began painting images onto bank brochures and even into magazine ads and Kleenex boxes and different things like that. So when I got the opportunity to go to one of the Provincetown dune shacks for 3 weeks, I brought this pizza box with me, among other things. There, believe me, there was no microwave there, so I must have brought the box or found it or something. I think I brought printed things. And then I painted a sunset there on the beach, you know, live. It was not from a photograph or anything. So it was a landscape painting on the beach, or a sunscape painting, skyscape. This was pretty pivotal. I know when I made it, I really thought I'd hit on something. So you're going to see more of that. I was simultaneously making a lot of plastic bag in the underbrush paintings. I was living in New York City, so these were from photographs when I went somewhere outside of New York City. The bags were, this bag happens to be in some poison ivy, but they were often just in the weeds or the dune grass or wherever I was, because they're pretty ubiquitous wherever we go. I was also, I was experimenting with painting like more random views of things. This is not a view of the path, and it's not a view of the flowers. I was very inspired by Gerhard Richter, I think, his blurry paintings, and I was interested in just what could you do with the subject of painting, like even kind of begin to eliminate the subject but still be painting representationally. I think that's more or less what I was thinking about. This one's called Afternoon, and here we have Mullen, which is very, very clearly painted. This was large also. Both Afternoon and Mullen were maybe about 4 feet tall by 3 feet or something like that. And mullen is a weed that grows like crazy in the stream beds around here, the river beds. And the plants grow about 6 feet tall. And they're just weeds, but they're really something to behold in the middle of the summer. So I made this grandiose painting of the mullen. And then I made this wetlands marsh painting. These are wetlands that my house is neighbor to. So this was, you know, this is a very familiar sight to me, the water and the trees in the fall. This is a large painting also, about probably 6 feet wide, 7 feet, probably 6 feet. So meanwhile, I was inspired by that sunset on the pizza box, and I eventually seized upon the idea of, I was picking trash up along the road, and also, you know, sometimes you see a wild iris along the road. So I eventually put the two together. These are things we pick up as we walk along, or we pick from the yard, or we pick from the woods or the field or whatever. So I have these trash flowers, and I made a whole lot of these for a long time. You see, I have a question mark, trash flowers from 2007 till we don't really know when. Maybe I still make them. I'm somewhere in there. I'm not sure exactly what year this is. I made this trash weed, which was a painting that I felt very pivotal to me when I made it. Unlike the trash flowers, I've now put something sort of equally undesirable as the painting on the undesirable trash item. And in this particular case, which happened to be the first one I did, I was really, really pleased with seeing how the weed interlaced with the wrinkles and bumps and creases of the trash. So that sort of started a whole thing for me. But now we're gonna hit a few weird things. I've had some funny things. So I did a proposal for Greene County Council on the Arts, where my idea was to convince other people to hang trash on their walls. And I realized that the way to do that was to paint portraits on trash. So I invited people to submit pieces of trash, and I made a brochure. I got a grant from the New York State Decentralization grant through Greene County Council on the Arts. And I convinced people through this brochure of what kind of trash they had to give me to have a painting made on it. It had to have some kind of a semi-flat surface on it. And so you can see I got a Betty Crocker box, and I got about 14 applicants who did this. And then I got a few surprises. One is that 70s car foil wrapped gift box that I painted this couple's son onto, and I'm sure that he was deceased. The photograph was very old, and he was only in his 20s, and I'm sure it was their deceased son that I was painting. And then another surprise was my neighbor and friend Rob gave me this hunk of great stuff encasing the can that it had come out of, and a photograph of himself, as you see there, with the rifle aiming. And what he had done was shot the can of great stuff. So he basically commissioned me to paint sort of a painting of his happening of helping me create this art project. And I was just really bemused and very pleased that he got so involved with the project. It was great. And then a fun part of it was he said at the end, he didn't want it. You know, I gave all the portraits to the people who commissioned them, but he didn't want his, he wanted me to sell it. So needless to say, I still own it, but I do really like it. So another thing that happened, around this time, I'm sure I had a website by now, and someone phoned me up telling me about event painting that they had seen on TV, and could I please do an event painting at their wedding? And she didn't want to pay very much, but I did it anyway because I had never heard of it, and I am a fast painter, and I thought it sounded interesting. And that's her dancing on the left there with her husband at the wedding. I personally think it's probably the best of my event paintings, but I've continued to do this as a sort of side little money-making career alongside of being an artist and teacher. So there's a couple more over there of some more recent ones that I've made. I do about 3 or 4 a year, and I've even done some big gala paintings at Rockefeller Center, like big affairs there too. So it's been kind of interesting. So somehow, I guess, then I made a website about event painting. So I have a separate website for event painting. And then I got a call from this lady who had a folded up photograph of that John Singer Sargent painting in her purse probably for years, because she sent it to me and it had been folded for a long time. So I had to look the painting up. She wanted herself painted in the paint, you know, she wanted to be the woman in the painting, in the dress, in the painting. So I thought this was a great idea. She sent me a picture of herself, a couple pictures of herself, and I did. There she is. I've painted this lovely Black woman as the main subject of a John Singer Sargent painting. I just thought that was the greatest project. That again, I did not event, but I was just a lackey. And but I just love that. So then this was a series of paintings I did for Greene County Council on the Arts show about the state parks. And I'm just showing this because it's this long process of figuring out that I could paint on objects. So I went and got trash from the campground trash area and took photographs of the campers in the campground, and then mixed and matched back in my studio and put campers onto various interesting pieces of trash that I had found in the trash area at the campground. Meanwhile, Fukushima happened, and I made just 2 paintings. This is the better one. I really like this painting. This is kind of small. It's about, I don't know, like 24 by 32 or something like that. And I think it's my way of trying to, I mean, I feel like Fukushima really did happen in all of our backyard, you know, really, it affects all of us. And I think something about just painting all the detail of the grass and the white suits and everything helps me to process the event. I really like the image too. Obviously, I didn't take the picture. I got it off the internet. But I don't know. I just did that. So then I'm saying then, all these things happened. Somebody gave me this pool ring after Hurricane Irene. I think it was in Cattersville Creek. And he brought this bedraggled pool ring to me. And I had made that that little pink insulation painting. It's about 12 by 10 or something like that, about 2 years earlier. And it was kind of well painted, but I didn't really know what to do with it. Like, who needs a painting of housing insulation, really? But so then something made me realize. I kept the pool ring actually for a few years. And then at some point I thought to just attach the pool ring to a painting, and realized this was the painting it needed to get attached to. And this was the first time, I guess, I painted. I mean, you can see I literally painted a P across the pool ring onto the painting. I screw gunned the pool ring to the painting, and all of that was new. I painted a blue splash that I copied off the pool ring onto the painting. And I at first called this P is for indeterminate, because I think I was interested in the crazy process of how I was intuitively just sort of putting things together more than I ever had. I was sort of finding a path away from being so dogmatic and political, and just doing what felt right with materials. So this was a exciting new thing. Eventually I decided to call the painting P is for painting. I changed the name because it's the painting, it's the power of painting that makes it work, that you can put these crazy things together, you know, by being able to paint across them like that. So meanwhile, I was looking at those big gyres in the ocean that are there. This is not a painting of a gyre. The gyres, you probably all know, are huge areas of trash that just kind of float around the globe. I think they're miles of, for some reason, I don't really understand why the trash sort of sticks together. I guess it maybe all gets picked up somewhere and it just kind of stays together in this big mass. I was looking at images of that, and then found this amazing picture of netting. So this is ocean tangle. And I guess it's the thing that traps dolphins, and whales start trying to chew on it and everybody's hurt by it. And this is a big painting about and this is in the show here at the Klein Art. It's about, I guess, 5 feet by 7 feet or something like that. I'm not even sure, something like that.
It's big.
It's big. And then this is also in the show here, more plastic bags, but now the bags have messages on them. This is best yet. There's another one that's thank you. So here is a triptych that is also in the show here. This I made in 2016, and it's Joan of Arc. I call it Joan of Arc. It's a huge arc of trash. So each of those paintings is 3 feet long, and there's 3 of them. So it's 9 feet of painting. And this was an arc of trash just down the road from where I live that I admired for a while before I finally took a picture of it. And then as I worked on it, I kept thinking about that amazing painting by, I think his name is Gaston Lepage at the Met of Joan of Arc. And probably most of you have, Jules Bastien Lepage. It's a beautiful painting of Joan of Arc surrounded by trees and leaves and greenery. She's outside and she's having one of the visions, and it takes a long time. You eventually realize there's an angel sort of camouflaged above her head in all the greenery. And I just kept thinking about the clarity of that painting and the clarity of what I was doing painting the trash. So that's why I call it Joan of Arc. And here, speaking about clarity, is my painting called Let Me Be Perfectly Clear. So I made many paintings like this. You know, first the hair was a little bit like this, and then I did lots of underbrush and weeds and tree branches. So I've done a lot of these over the last 20 years. I very much believe in, quote, not knowing, unquote, and uncertainty as preferable stances to plunging along ahead with a plan or a viewpoint that is essentially unfounded in knowledge. I like a state of possibility, lots of suggested directions. And that's what this painting is about. So I love the irony of being very, very specific as a painter while coming up in the end with something just completely baffling, really, and even you could say confusing. So it's specific and confusing at the same time. So that's why it's called Let Me Be Perfectly Clear. This is sweet potato. And so, whoops, I'm jumping ahead. So that's, I'm getting more and more sort of crazy with the paintings on the trash, you know, trying all different things. Then I finally seized on the idea of painting trash onto trash, which is something I'm continuing to work on now. I really like what happens when the trash is painted on the trash. So wait, this one is, this is called Commemorative Piece. And then we have here Precious Planet, which is not in the show here at the Klein Art. This, I think, is all about possibility, this painting, because what is the likelihood of a gadget inventor coming up with a mobile that plays Bach and Beethoven while rotating fantastically colored stuffed animals over a baby's head in a tight circle? You might say it's the same probability as seeing a rainbow as you drive home from somewhere. And that is a rainbow I saw as I was driving home. So that's what that painting's about, the chance meeting of those things. This is Carapace, which is in this show. And I jumped ahead. It's hard to scroll there. There we go. This is carapace is I actually had to look it up because I thought it was a covering for a bug, but it actually means the shell of a turtle, crustacean, or arachnid. I kept thinking about like little ladybug covers. I knew the word, but I had it slightly off. The painting, the actual the painting on the canvas is covered by the card part, which is the carapace for the painting. And this was where I discovered that if you make a painting on angled surfaces, you may be able to get the viewer to actually move around so they make the painting resolve. And what happened after that was I made this one, which looks kind of logical. This is the only point of view from which this painting makes any sense. If you move a little bit to the right or the left, it's just a jumble of water jugs with paint all over them. And you'll see, here's a side view of carapace, where you can see it's trying to resolve, but it's got a big gash between it, gash down the middle of the painting. So I became interested in how you can kind of get the viewer to sort of change position in front of the painting. I think I'll probably do more with that. But anyway, that's what that is. This is Chasing Fireflies. And this has some beautiful trompe l'oeil painting in it, which I feel obliged to point out because I'm not sure everybody notices that the bottom edge is an actual edge of that yellow object that's attached to the painting. There's a painting of flowers there, a painting on canvas. And then the upper torn edge I painted. So that's the top of a little, a magazine page or an advertisement page of a little girl's, wearing an outfit in a advertising brochure. So that's why it's called Chasing Fireflies, because that was the heading for her outfit. Here is just a representation of something that I'm very interested in continuing work on. I have 2 of these video paintings in this show at Decline Art, but this one was unfinished. I did in collaboration with another artist, Joanne Alvis. That's me in the red dress and Joanne in the blue dress there. But I painted the Dutch still life onto this one. And then we did a lot of experimenting with footage to put behind this painting. And we have sound and footage and everything. And the way that this all started was I had painted on a computer monitor that didn't work. And my son, who's an animator, my oldest son, said, why don't you try doing that and run video, behind the painting? And I thought, wow, that's a pretty interesting idea. And my friend Joanne, who I met in grad school, had been a video artist and photographer. And so I asked her if she wanted to collaborate. And we have made 3 finished projects together, 2 of which are here at the Decline Art. And then this unfinished one, which I do hope we finish sometime soon. This is Terminal
Vivian,
Moment. That was
they can't hear me, right? But is my name on here or not?
No.
We can hear you.
I hear you.
Oh,
I think
and now you can. Okay.
Please mute.
Can you undo it for me?
Okay, so this is Terminal Moment, site-specific mural at Albany Airport. They were doing a reconstruction project at the airport, and they decided to have a show. They invited artists to participate in a show called Patterns of Engagement. And I was specifically invited to come and use materials that were getting taken out of the old airport structure to make way for the renovation. And so that's airport carpeting you see there mounted on plywood, and there were layers and layers of plexiglass. And at first I thought, oh, plexiglass, that's not a very fun material to work with. And then I realized I could paint layers of travelers on the plexiglass. So that's what happened. And this is about 18 feet long. The measurements there on that are not quite correct there, but the mural was about 18 feet long. This is a museum goer. He was at the Louvre,
Where's the-
but the name of the painting is just museum goer, I think is what I call it. Next, how are we doing for time?
It's
Um,
about 8 o'clock.
Okay, so I should be done soon. So I'm gonna try to speed up. We're almost done here. This is Memphis, an Erie Canal painting. I've been riding along the Erie Canal on bikes and on bicycle, and I'm enjoying how the Erie Canal is very much such a great symbol of progress and improvement. So they had to keep building one Erie Canal after the next, which kind of reminds all of us of what happens every time we turn on the phone and it's been upgraded or updated and we have to do all kinds of things to catch up. This is Forever After and Soulmate, little trash on trash. Here is the large painting I call Denizen of Catskill, painted on a carpet. And this is quite large. It's about 9 feet tall and 11 feet wide. And I really, really liked how it became this sort of, the carpet gives it this pointillist sparkle that I had no idea was going to happen when I started painting on a carpet. But that's what happened. And then it made painting on the canvas, the Erie Canal paintings are so easy to paint after working on this carpet painting. Here is a fire alarm painting or alarm bell painting that makes a chime when you hit it on the edge. This is even.
So I'm gonna jump in now.
Okay, good.
I want to get a little bit of dialogue in with you and then leave just a little time for audience Q&A.
Okay, good.
I think before we got started tonight, I mentioned that I was thinking about all of that gyre, all of that trash that has ended up in the world's oceans and how archival it all is. I mean, you can't destroy it. You can't get rid of it. It's there forever. That's the essence of archivalness. And then also, if like myself, you're an artist that's lived in Soho and Tribeca, let's say, for 30 years, 35, 40 years, you invariably see trash bins, dumpsters, full of the discarded art of late artists that, you know, ended up being thrown out. And I now am able to see that in some context as a kind of installation piece. Anyway, I have some questions for you. When did you first begin to delve into environmental art and or the use of detritus? How far back does that go for you?
Huh. I guess I would have to say it goes back to that being on Cape Cod and painting the painting on the pizza box. That's probably the first time I actually painted on real trash. The thing that
And
started,
roughly what years was that, in the early 70s or something like that?
that was about it was about 1995,
Oh, okay.
I think. Something.
And what is your purpose in focusing on environmental art projects? Is it primarily aesthetic or is it more deeply political?
It's both. And in a way, I don't think about it exactly as environmental art. I just think about it as my art, and it's really both. Like they're just married together. The my just personal concern for I'd say it's I don't know, it's been forever that I've cared about the environment, you know, since I was, I don't know, a teenager and
Right.
realized everything was running amok.
There's a tradition of artists that would wander about gathering up they wouldn't have called it detritus, they would have called it found objects.
Right, yeah.
So you think of people like Armin, who would do things, let's say, a wall of knives or a wall of light bulbs or a wall of globes or, different, usually somewhat standardized. Or Louise Nevelson, who went around looking for just interesting scraps of wood that she then transformed with paint, usually, in black or white. So what triggers work for you? Is it finding a piece of discarded detritus, let's say, or junk, or is there a concept in your mind, and then you go searching for something that might be appropriate to create the environment for it, let's say?
No, it's more that I find things all the time and pick them up, and then my children even began to recognize which things I would want, and they'd bring them home for me from and along those lines, I do have some work by some young artists at the end of the presentation here, where I'm just so pleased to see this kind of work getting made, because I feel as though they're fully engaged in the trash as art material, which it took me a lifetime to get to. These are greasy pizza plates hung in this beautiful, pristine sort of way, that it's like a corporate lighting presentation.
Do you actually find pleasure, artistic pleasure, in the nature of the raw found objects before you transform them? Or does that change in their integration into a piece you're doing? Or both, perhaps?
Say that again? I'm sorry.
Well, in other words, when you're out hunting for trash, detritus, whatever you want to call it, found objects, is what motivates you to collect them, to gather them, something aesthetic, something artistic?
Oh,
Or does that come later when they tend to be either the base for a work or are integrated into a work?
I do seize on them because of aesthetic reasons to begin with. So yes, but I also really like it when they look very unaesthetic in a way. It's the unaestheticness that sometimes really persuades me to pick them up because of how interesting they'd be as a piece of art. Yeah, I don't know, but it is what they look like that's very interesting to me, and it's why I picked them up. And another thing about them, though, is that they speak so strongly of our culture. Like if it's a potato chip bag or a beer can or whatever it is, the logo, the imagery, the colors are, they speak of the time that they came from. There can be very old trash in the woods sometimes, and that's different, and interesting.
I understand that you had a portrait event as part of your show. It was maybe a week ago, is that correct? Something like that?
Yes, that's
Where you were doing portraits, sort of on the spot portraits, in effect, like a sort of on the spot commission. And I understand that it was everything sold, or the whole activity was a big success. At least it was what you wanted it to be.
Yes.
How long did each of those portraits tend to take to complete?
Well, honestly, what I did is I began them in the gallery, and and took photographs of people. People brought in a piece of trash, and then I started their portrait on it by them sitting right with me for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then I took photographs of the people, and I will be continuing and finishing them in my studio.
Do you tend to prefer indoor or outdoor installations of your art? I don't think you showed us actual outdoor things. You were showing indoor things. Do you ever do them as an outdoor piece, even if they wouldn't tend to last as long? In other words, are you into the possibility that they would be corroded, you know, broken
Yes.
down outdoors.
Yes, I have made work actually in collaboration with Joanne Alvis, the one who I did the video projects with. We worked on
Mhm.
some outdoor art projects that were designed to decompose.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And of the indoor pieces, do you, or any of the pieces, but mostly they would be indoor, do you worry about the archivalness of your work or the tasks that might be in the future for a preservationist trying to preserve it?
Yeah, I do worry about that a little bit. I worry about that. A little bit. But I've been surprised how long paper art that I made 20
Yeah.
years ago still is holding up and looks fine. So
Right.
I'm happy about that.
What about paint starting to peel off a plastic surface, for example?
That has not happened. I'm
Okay.
embarrassed to admit I have a few canvases that are a little bit they're cracking a tiny bit. The paint wasn't applied fat over lean well enough, I guess.
Right.
So, but I haven't,
Uh,
the plastic trash is holding up very well, actually.
And where do you see yourself going next in art making using found materials? Or do you see it some other way, perhaps?
I really, I've been working across objects. I'm imagining doing more with, montaging objects that's not the right word, attaching objects together with canvases, kind of like the airport mural.
Uh-huh.
And then also the work with Joanne with the video work, I could picture, you know, maybe that could include objects too. I don't know yet.
So now I think maybe we will look for folks that are in the audience who may have questions or comments. And I think they can, rather than using the chat, they can just unmute themselves and say what they want to say, up to a minute, up to a few minutes.
That would be fun.
So who would go first?
I have a question.
Okay.
I would like to know more about the paints you're using, because you said the sizes, but I was really curious about the different paints you're using. Is it acrylic? Is it oil? Is it watercolor? Is it gouache? Is it what is it actually?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's oil paint, I think, in every case, basically. So I have used the other kinds of paint sometimes, but I think almost everything I showed tonight, mostly I paint in oil paint, though I love watercolor too. But
And is it water-based oil or is it actual oil paint?
Actual oil paint with linseed oil and Damar varnish mixed in and turpentine as the medium.
All right. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you know why that's such a good question. The reason why I feel very comfortable about doing that on plastic is that gesso is plastic. I mean, plastic gesso is plastic. And I guess I started thinking about that a long time ago and just kind of thinking, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. But I do frequently check I think his name is Ralph Mayer, the big book that he wrote on
Right.
what should be painted onto what.
Right. Do you ever abrade or rough up the surface in order to create more tooth to be more accepting of paint?
I have done that a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. And I've also varnished paper surfaces, you know, to protect them from the oil paint.
Right.
Do you ever think about using spray paint on the plastic? You know, would be much easier, wouldn't it?
But spray paint, I'm really into the brush work and everything. I don't think I would relate to that so much. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but I haven't really thought about it. Maybe I will.
Yeah, no, it really works very well. But then you have to take you have the fumes, but you have the fumes from oil paint also. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, or you could use an atomizer, I guess, and spray the paint that way, you know.
of course, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, interesting.
Someone
Anyhow, thanks so much.
Hi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I am currently a grad student pursuing my my master's in metalsmithing in art. And I sometimes find it difficult balancing technical skill with conceptual depth. And I'm just wondering, like you seem so successful at employing your technical skills and prowess in painting to convey your ideas and also address relevant contemporary issues. And I'm just wondering if you have any advice for young artists, how to, balance like the self-indulgent kind of joy in making with trying to like address these like hard topics,
That is such a good question. I feel like that is exactly what I struggled with for so long, wanting to make work that was important and was about something important. But then when I would really focus on that, the work wasn't always so good because you're doing too much sort of hitting people over the head with a message or something. And so really the best thing, if you can just do it, is, I think, is to love the materials you're working with and keep paying attention to what you care about in the world. And eventually they weave together, I think. I mean, I think that's what happened to me, but it's hard. Like it's a shorter battle for some people, I think, a shorter path maybe, but for me, it took a really long time. Thank you for that question. It's a really good question.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your talk.
Oh, thank you.
Is there someone else who would like to ask something or say something? Perhaps people have had enough trash talk for one night.
Could be.
Never.
Okay, I think I'm handing this over to Miriam. Where are you, Miriam?
Thank you, Tasha, for sharing some really magnificent works, so inventive too. I'd love to see them in person. And the scale is so impressive too. So, and thank everyone for joining us tonight. And Doug for shepherding us through this. Thanks to our marketing coordinators, programming assistants, Brianna and Susanna, Jason, Marina, Jacqueline, our board, advisors, and the many volunteers and interns that makes ATOA work. So hope to see you again. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
So much.
Right.
Good night.
Thank you, Tasha.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tasha. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
And everybody.
Very good.